Welcome to the show. You guys have had exemplary careers at Meta, Amazon, Adobe, and even Microsoft, all the big names out here. So before we get started, wanted to do a quick introduction. You want to just tell where you are today in your career? What do you work on?
Yeah, I can start. First of all, thanks for having us. Yeah, I'm a software engineer working at Meta. Been at Meta for more than 8 years now. Yeah, largely been working on the ads. Yeah.
Okay. I'm also doing software engineering. I'm working with Amazon. It's been 6 years with Amazon, but overall I have 10 years of experience in software industry. Started back in India, then moved to US, and then continuing. So I want to explore your relationship with money and how these milestones in life, and you've had a lot of them recently, changed your perspective about money. So let's start from the beginning. Do you remember your first paycheck? What did you do with that? And growing up, what did money mean for you?
Yeah, I think money has always had this value where it can help elevate a lot of the problems you have seen in life. And at least I don't believe in the philosophy of money doesn't buy happiness. I do feel that money buys happiness to a large extent. And once you have enough money, maybe you can start claiming that money doesn't buy happiness.
So very
Yeah, I don't think we are there yet. Yeah, generally I feel like money gives you a lot of independence in life, in doing things that you really want to. So it's probably a vehicle to continuously get towards what you would like to do in life.
But you didn't tell me about your first paycheck. Yeah, I was having this photography love, so I bought a camera for myself. It was not much, very basic camera, but then it started my photography love, and then I learned after it. Obviously, gifts for parents, siblings. So I had a younger sister. She had a big wish list, so completed one of that item. And it's almost like a milestone, right? Yeah, getting your
exactly.
first paycheck.
Accomplished that you are buying things.
Yeah. Yep. And fast forward to today. How do you think about money the same way? Does every paycheck feel the same way? What has changed and what stays the same?
I think now you feel the freedom. You don't think much if there's somebody saying you're close to that they need money, and then you don't think much because you think like that you are money for them also. So you just go forward and do things. I think that's the comfort I've gotten by saving and then having a certain amount in my bank account.
Yeah, I think I don't think again you get as fascinated with every paycheck because now it's very incremental. But at the same time, you do realize the importance that whatever you are able to do in life in terms of either traveling, being able to help people close to you, that is basically being made feasible by the money you are earning. I do feel there is an element that once you have more money in your account, again, that helps you dream big, I guess, because you're not thinking about survival, quote unquote, and you're thinking more about what you would ideally like to do in your life if you have a certain amount.
You're more allowed to dream.
Yeah.
You start dreaming once you have that money. And as you put it earlier, money cannot buy happiness can only be stated by people who already have had the opportunity to dream. It's great. And of course, you guys traveled to multiple countries. You worked in India, you worked in Europe, you worked in US. How has your perspective about money, compensation spent, or the life quality associated with money changed in these different countries?
So I have primarily worked in US, never worked in India and Europe. I was in Dublin for a year, but that was also very early in our career. I think that the perspective has changed quite a lot since then. I do feel like there are these pros and cons of earning in US versus earning in India, or let's say earning in US versus using that money in India, either moving back to India or just say investing in India, even while you are in US. There's a lot of different trade-offs.
It's just a little bit different the way people look at money in these different countries. And of course, Deepika, you have almost spent half and half in both countries.
I worked for 5 years in India. So in India, you mostly get big cash component, initial in your career state. So people have mentality okay, I'll go and save in FD. So back in 2014, even I won't say for everyone, I was not exposed to that culture that you need to buy stocks from your own money as well. I just used to think whatever I'm getting from my company, that's all. or I'm gonna save. So that has changed. When I moved to US, I got exposed to these things.
Yes. Yeah.
So
Especially in SF and
yeah,
like
exactly.
huge tech stocks.
So you take that risk, like you can go ahead and buy stocks even if with your monthly salary, and that's what I do currently.
It makes sense. Like the way we look at investments in India is starkly different from the way we look at investments in US.
Yeah.
And in some way, it also makes us very different from our parents' generation, the way they look at investments. Have you ever found that generational difference between the way your parents talk and think about money versus the way you deal with money today?
Yeah, I see the difference, and I also agree with what Deepika was saying. That if he, even my friends in India, they mostly think of compensation in terms of cash plus bonus. There is an equity component, but of course, it's not like the dominant factor of their paycheck. I guess, like over here, at least in SF, the equity component is the most dominant, which I feel also reflects in how you save and how you think about money in a longer run. I guess, like back in the day, I saw my dad investing in stocks, but I still feel that that was maybe more like a prototyping or playing with maybe 5%, 3% of his total net worth. With us, I feel it's totally different. Like your primary source of investment is stocks. And yeah, like there's also, I think, a means of savings. Like you, as of today, everyone, I guess, most people are aware that you don't want to keep money in your bank account and get like the absolute value of money is going down. Rather, you want some sort of either interest coming onto it or actively invest in stocks that will give you at least like 10-15% of the return.
Yep. That's for sure. Like equity is a major component. As millennials working in tech, we're exposed to equity, almost forcefully exposed to equity because most of our money is in equity.
In India, I've seen the culture of buying land instead of
Real
investing in
estate is
stocks,
big.
like buying like homes in multiple cities, rent it out, buy land, and earn money on top of it. So
It's very different. In investments, to touch upon it a little bit, equity, the way you look at it is going to be very different than what you look at FDs in real estate. How do you guys visualize like how much of your investments should actually be in equity versus what should be in like, other vehicles, say real estate and stuff?
Yeah, I think like there is also a frictional cost associated with doing real estate investments. Either you need to be into it proactively. You need to understand the dynamics and the market and how to get into it. I think as of today, getting into stocks and this like online trading is really simple, which is also, I guess, like a dominant factor in most people getting into it. Secondly, also feel that there is a huge difference of liquidity, right? Like real estate as of today still feels to me as something that you are locked in for, let's say, 30 years. That brings huge amount of friction and keeps you thinking over and over if you want to get into it or not. Versus I think like the liquidity you get with the stocks is super amazing.
And it's also that there's something we've grown up to see on.
yes,
Right? Like real estate, even if the vehicle itself hasn't changed, our perspective of the world or the people today and how they look at wealth has completely changed. It is still as illiquid as you mentioned, as it was earlier, but today we have access to more liquid vehicles like stocks and stuff. And to that point, I want to understand there are challenges associated with equity investments too. It's not like it's very straightforward. It can get volatile. You can be really concentrated in a specific type of stock. How do you guys navigate those challenges? How do you think about investments in general?
when you be here, I mostly give all my stocks in big tech companies that think like it's safe and it will grow even though it's going down like in certain times.
Over time, it has
over
to.
time it will give me benefits. So I've been like safe in this area, and I think just like keeping my stocks.
Yeah, for me, I think my both awareness and philosophy changed quite a lot over years. For example, like I have been working for more than 10 years now. I joined Meta in 2017 and I used to never sell my stocks, like at least the vested ones, right? But I did hear this advice even back in the day that the vested RSUs are same as someone handing you that amount of cash on a day. But I never acted on it. And part of it was lack of awareness. Part of it was not knowing what the right thing to do is and being comfortable that money and invested in a particular stock that your company has granted you might be an okay strategy to go with. And I think in some cases, it's definitely okay with, say, stable stocks like Microsoft, potentially Amazon. But what I felt was that strategy, I only learned it the hard way. Like when Meta stock crashed around 22, I guess, my net worth got wiped off almost by 80%. And that's when I sort of started getting into what is the right way to manage this. And that's when I sort of realized, like, at least for me, I knew that I would be a lot more comfortable not losing 40% suddenly, not gaining 40%, I'm okay, but not losing 40% was like a deal breaker. So I wanted to be somewhere in the range where I can control, or like having less profit was okay.
Preservation of capital.
Yeah. So then that's when like I sort of got into this mindset that I started treating every vest as a cash deposit. And then I would like very proactively just diversify in different ETFs and maybe some of the tech stocks that I know really well. But certainly I don't go way outside of the domain I know, like the known tech stocks and even the tech ETF.
You guys touched upon like a lot of good stuff here. Of course, by investing in specific companies, we have this issue of diversification, not being that, and volatility can impact your portfolio, but also the upside you mentioned to some extent is missing. Big tech has yielded great returns always, and it might be a good strategy to keep money in it, but there should be some control you have in your hand where you don't see such volatility, impacting it day in, day out, because it's very difficult. It also is emotionally impacting if you're a portfolio and something that you're investing as a human capital to working in that company, goes through such a massive change. So how do you guys manage it today? Like, have you ever considered an external help? Have you ever considered talking to your banks, for example, to guide on that, or your RSU provider?
We have been reached out by, because of course, like all the big techs provide this functionality where you can get consulting, but I have never leveraged it or utilized it. All I do today is either based on my own learnings or discussions with people in the same boat. Though I do feel like the problem is recognized, that help would be very meaningful, but I don't feel like the solution upside is recognized as well. Yeah, that's, I guess, like the best way I can summarize that.
I mean, and is it the relationship with them that you don't feel them to be in the same boat, that you don't resonate? Or is it that you feel the solution that they're offering is not matching what you're looking for? What is it that stops you? Or maybe you just haven't tried enough, or
Basically, the trust factor as well. Like, see, you basically trusting someone and then listening and doing what they are telling you.
Yep.
So you need that trial somewhere to make you believe like this is going to work. Because for me, I've never sold not even a single stock that I have gotten in my career, and that's what I'm lacking, because I feel like I'm just accumulating stocks and not diversifying it. If you look at Amazon stock in the last 5 years, it is not having that much growth if I have like invested it somewhere else. Need that guidance definitely.
and that's a very important point, because you have worked so hard to build all this like money that you have, trusting someone to take control of it and do whatever. And when you know that most people won't be able to beat the market, is it the right way to go about it? Is something to be skeptical about. And I think with our generation, guys, keep me honest, with our generation, we have access to so much data that we know about the companies. This information is not siloed with one individual or an advisor who can help us. So how do we trust them becomes even more important. Like, we already know what they know. How are they going to make it work for us?
Yeah, so like that's partially true, I feel, because I guess like all of us are busy, right?
Yeah.
And
Who has
investing like that amount of time into researching a company, and you also need to know, like, are you researching it from the right perspective or not? Like, where a company might be like at its peak when you feel it's doing really well.
And usually that's the way it happens. Everyone's buying you and you're buying.
But I guess like when you are, and I hope like the value is really in what is the right way to think and what is the right time to get in.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel there are probably two components that keep us away. One is just the hesitation to get into something new, the natural inertia. For example, which even comes with signing up for new credit cards. Like once you sign up, you might see huge upside, which at least happened to me. I didn't go around looking for these things, but the day I signed up for one of the credit cards, now I use a lot. I do cherish it a lot. Same thing I feel with wealth management. I am not into it, but my sense is once I get into it and I see the upside, it's very difficult for me to move out of it.
That's possible. That's true. And one thing that we've noticed is that if you do DIY, you can, a lot of people do that actually. They have big tech stocks and they're like, either big tech is good to have or I'll just put it in index and go with it. Like, as soon as it vests, I put it in S&P 500 and go with it. What do you think about this strategy? Have you ever tried or exploring that?
Yeah, I generally try to maintain a balance between individual stocks that I know and have some sense of what's gonna come in the next couple of years from a technological landscape perspective. Like at least until year and a half ago, I would invest in Microsoft and Apple, and then maybe invest 50% into ETFs because that just gives me a good sense of principal preservation with some upside, like maybe 10 to 20%.
Yeah.
And the other individual stocks give me some reasonable growth upside.
Do you want to add anything to that?
I think it's going same for me as well. Yeah.
And this is usually a good strategy.
Yeah.
One thing that we hear about, and it's going to come up often as we approach December, is taxes. Even if you do that, the stock market is going to keep going up and down, and not withholding is never going to be optimal, and you will end up either paying penalties or not understanding. It's just so complicated. And we've also grown outside US. So getting into this new system and understanding the system is a challenge. How do you guys go about navigating that perspective of taxes that come handy with investments?
I really need to learn this because for the past 2 years, I have been paying that penalty you were talking about. And you get that huge number, and then suddenly you are selling your stocks and Robinhood.
Very good.
So something to learn where I can balance my taxes. Recently, I made the changes like in my E-Trade account, made the percentage high for the tax paying so that at the end of the year, I'm not paying that penalty.
Exactly.
But if somebody can teach me how you can intelligently invest and save money there, that will be real.
Yeah, I think again, just related to that, another point is we are in this unique position, as you said, right? Like we haven't been born and brought up in US. You don't have that traditional guidance that would have just flown to you, just like it happens in India, right? Like these things sort of flow as conventional wisdom through us. That doesn't happen here. Being more systematically informed about the right choices would certainly be helpful. And I think like other than the tax situation, what would also be helpful is given the unique position we are in, personalized advice depending on this context. So yeah, which sort of like even gets into, okay, how are your investments in India? How do we balance them? What are your long-term goals?
Yeah, it's complicated and anyway different from our parents' generation. Plus, we're also in a different continent altogether. So it makes a lot of things that we need to grasp and we need to do it by the clock. So yes, totally understand that it can be complicated. Going back to even the money topic, I wanted to understand what is your belief about money? Like, how important do you think money is? And is it the most important thing?
Not the most important thing, but definitely important to have that comfortable life and the way like you have been living, and then now you get used to for certain things, right? Like that you don't even realize, and that came with money eventually. So yes, it is important. Definitely.
But okay, do you guys have you heard about the term FIRE?
Yeah.
Financially independent, retire early. Is that something you strive towards, or retirement in general? Is that something you plan towards?
I don't think as much about FIRE because I think, and there's probably like a philosophical take to it, that it gets you living for the future and in the future, and I don't want to miss out on the present, optimizing way too much for the future. I do see the idea of FIRE, but I want to be very careful in how I imbibe it in my life. Yeah, financial independence part of it is super critical. Because again, like I think going back to that conversation, it helps you dream big. And I think like the practical aspect of dreaming big is you need that cushion, right? You need the cushion for failure. And yeah, that I feel is like the thought on top of my mind, which is where probably money preservation and importance of money comes in. But again, I wouldn't say like it's the most important thing in my life. I would still see money as a vehicle for a lot of other things I value in my life, like relationships, like being able to travel and so on and so forth. But again, like having more money just helps you go for your dreams, whether they are oriented towards money or creativity or anything else.
That's very well put. And of course, things change in the age and life that we are at. How has financial planning changed as an individual, doing it single versus together as partners, looking at your future outlook together?
I think it certainly provides a lot more stability. The things which I didn't used to think about earlier, like say buying a home, because for me it was very clear that I don't want a home for myself. I want a home with my partner. This home is not just a house, right?
Yeah.
Like it's a very personal space. And I was very clear in my head, I don't know, like since when, that I want a home with my partner that is actually like curated and time is spent on it. So I think those sort of things start unlocking because it's only right. Like you don't want to change all four wheels of your car. You want one thing at a time. I think your marriage certainly unlocks these sort of next milestones, even say a little more sincerity with thoughts like, do we want to move to India at some point? I guess until I was not married, I would always think about like, okay, my very next priority is getting married. And then, of course, thinking about these major milestones. So
it's like a new world unlocks and you think about new dreams that are together. Do you want to add anything to that?
Definitely giving me stability, and also I'm getting to learn things. Like I'm now free, like I can free invest around and always can lean on Lee for the advice that he gives, and so that way like it has given me little bit freedom.
That makes sense. How do you guys plan about these things? As an individual, probably you're not thinking about buying a house or you were not investing as much, but now you might have a goal in life. Do you actively plan towards it? Do you brainstorm with each other, put money aside? How do you go about it?
I think that's a very interesting question. And I'd at least tell you like about, maybe let's talk about two goals. One is buying a house versus, let's say, moving to India. I think for the latter, I feel I'm always constrained by lack of knowledge, which means either I take out a weekend or like a week and say, okay, I'm going to research on how things are going to happen. Because I don't feel like decisions are taken in isolation. Decisions always have a feasibility look as to how things are going to pan out and how comfortable am I with this path. And see, right now, I don't even know like what paths to traverse, but where I can make a decision of go, no go with certain amount of confidence. This is where like, this is one place I feel, yes, like this sort of consulting can help quite a lot. No, not only in your immediate issues like say taxes or how you invest, but even influence the larger decisions of your life. Coming back to housing, I feel housing is something again that requires a lot of research because I've been done it in US. I've heard about things like, okay, one person goes to a realtor. I don't know how to choose a good realtor. I don't know how to like, should I be prioritizing a school district right now? I guess no. I don't have a kid. I don't plan to send him to school anymore. So I think like there are just too many variables. And you also like, I think one recent realization has been that I don't need to link buying a house versus staying in US or India. Those can be like very independent decisions. Yeah. So I think like there is this sort of incremental learning, which is very ad hoc right now. It comes to you and it magically finds its way. But having some sort of systematic path on making these decisions.
And again, as you get married, you start thinking about them more and more, and they magically either find you or you're forced to think about them because you're at a point of your life in your life, I need to chart this out. And then you go back to your investments and taxes and open up those books and understand how to plan it. Now that's great. And generally like spending wise or financial planning wise, have things changed after marriage, before marriage? Do you guys think that you spend more, spend less? How do you plan your budgets?
Yeah, I don't feel like a huge change actually. It's just been 5 months as of now. I feel it to be a very natural transition. At least I don't feel it as much. Maybe you do.
No, it's like same because we both were financially independent before marriage, and we had those certain things in our mind. Like I've always lived in a way like I'll save small. Even for my wedding, I had a budget. Even for my future home that you're talking about, I already have a budget for that. So it's just combined with his budget, and like we'll land somewhere.
Yeah.
So this is how I function, and it's been going on even for my own things like travel, and let's say I want to buy something out of my wish list. Even that is my separate budget. So I've been living that way, and it's working fine.
And that's wonderful. Thanks for sharing that. As we wrap up, I wanted to like end up with an open-ended question. Like, what is your big money dream?
Just to understand your question, it's more like if you had a lot of money, what are you gonna do about it?
Yeah. What is like when you dream about something that can be fetched with money, what would that look like?
I'd fulfill my travel dreams. I want to go to Antarctica and then want to spend on travel, know around the like what's happening around the world. I think that's my dream.
Yeah, for me, I guess it would be being in a position or like largely being able to enable others to get that sort of financial freedom. Either I don't know by opening up opportunities or some way or the other. I haven't thought about like the exact needs. I'm sure there are multiple paths to it, but I would definitely want to help not only people. I would start with people around me, but I definitely, if I could, have that sort of bigger impact and impact maybe.
That's wonderful. Thanks a lot again for your time. Wonderful meeting you both. Hope you both have a beautiful day. Thank you. Thank you.